Good afternoon and welcome to the latest Shooting Straight with me, Voice Over the Forge. Now, as you well know, I only generally tend to upload a video where I do say what I mean and mean what I say when something gets my goat. Now, I am in a bit of a dilemma because my last Shooting Straight video, I condemned the police quite roundly for not applying powers that they have with regards to breach of the peace. Now, with regards to this video, I cannot say the same. I do not like the principle involved. I do not like the manner in which things have been carried out, and I do not like the precedent that this sets for speech, reporting, although there are things in place which do cover this, and the whole mess of the situation that this covers. So I am being rather less judgmental of the police and the courts system in this case than I could be, and this isn't because I do not like the man involved, who I'll come to in a moment, but I am trying to show that there is a process, that this process may be flawed. I do not like the outcome of this flawed process, but to a certain extent this individual is the author of his own misfortune because of a wider indication that was given by the courts. Okay, so with that being said as my preface, okay, I think most of you will have probably cottoned on that I am talking about the arrest of Tommy Robinson for reporting, and I am using the word reporting, on a case that was going ahead at a court involving alleged gang rapists. Do I have to say that they're alleged Muslims, or can I say that they're Muslims? Because I don't know. To be frankly, I don't care. If they're child rapists, they're child rapists. It doesn't matter what religion they are. They should be locked up and banged away. But at the moment, they're still on trial. They haven't been found guilty yet. They may not be found guilty. They may well be found not guilty. And this is the problem I have with this situation, is the fact that anyone reporting on this case, there has been a reporting ban. One, I don't agree with the reporting ban. I think this is one of the foundational principles of justice, is not only that justice is done, but that justice is seen to be done. And in this case, they've hidden it behind closed doors, so that when someone has then had the gumption to report what is going on, that, oh no, it's contempt of court. Okay, well, there has been a ruling saying that no one is to report, so as far as that goes, I really can't comment on that for too much. What I can say is that Tommy Robinson was in court before, and he was warned not to do it again, and he did it again. This is what I mean about being the author of his own misfortune. Okay, I suffer with certain issues, which mean that when I'm out in public and things, to some may be simple things. They may not necessarily trigger any great reaction in anybody else, but it means I blow my stack. It means that I get aggressive. If I know that's what I'm going to be like, then I don't leave my flat, because I don't want to be like that. I don't want to ruin my life legally, and I don't want to ruin somebody else's life. But there are times when I have to leave the flat. and there are times when I've had to leave my flat and there has been a problem. The fact that I seek to limit the problem has no impact on the fact that the problem is there. And I would take that point and I would apply that to society. If there is a problem with an ethnic group who view it as their culture to do certain things, then there is no point in putting a reporting restriction on those cases. Because if their wider community does not cry out and say, not in our name, then the only thing that we can justify saying is, well, these people do this, it seems to be part of their culture, and no one's calling them out from that culture. We can make a determination about that culture, because the silence of the majority can be read as assent. Furthermore, and this is the main meat of the video, which will take some time, but I wanted to get this out in the open. I am not a supporter of Tommy Robinson, but equally I am not a supporter of the courts system and the way they have handled these cases. I am not a supporter of the police in this case, because I think personally that the arrest that is on video could be held to be an illegal arrest, because as far as I'm aware there is no such thing as a suspicion of breach of the peace. He wasn't told he was under arrest for contempt of court. He wasn't told he was under arrest for anything other than incitement of a breach of the peace, which has to be urgent, it has to be imminent, and it was none of those things. So, in my understanding, the arrest as far as it goes, as it was seen and has been seen by lots of people, could actually be held to be illegal. If the arrest is held to be illegal, then it could also be argued that the presentation before the court for the activation of his suspended sentence may then also be called into question. Also, I do not think that someone who has a suspended sentence for 3 months should then be handed down something for that longer than a year. I mean, this is that is nearly just over 4 times the original suspended sentence. And I've been in court where you have people with suspended sentences for theft, for fraud, for assault, and they get 6 months added on. They get a year added on out of something like a 3-year suspended sentence. Drug addicts, violence. Never have I seen a suspended sentence go up by over 400% before. And that, to me, again, smacks of something wrong with the system. Now, the meat of the situation, and this is something which I think is important and I think is necessary. Now, this is going to take some time, as this is something which I do not usually do. Usually when I shoot straight, I am unplanned, no notes, and an honest opinion. In this case, I am challenging the notion that people have that you have to have a degree and that you have to be sponsored by somebody in order to be a reporter or in order to be a journalist. Now, my focus is the UK, and because at the moment the UK is part of Europe, it also has to abide by EU regulations. Now, what I am talking about here is that people seem to be under the impression that you cannot call yourself a journalist or you cannot call yourself a reporter unless you meet certain criteria. And this video is here to explain that that is not the case. The 2 websites that I have used for this information will be placed in the description box, and this is all about regulated professions. This comes under Directive 2005/36/EC, modified by Directive 2013/55/EU. Right? This is going to be long. Right? These are the 4 ways in which professions can be regulated. Now, if a profession is regulated, that means that there is a restriction on people calling themselves this job title. So this means that if you want to be a doctor, for example, if you call yourself doctor, you've got to meet certain criteria. Now, obviously, having doctor as a title, when you are something like a DPhil, you've got a philosophical doctorate, is different to being an MD, a medical doctor, but you still get to use doctor as a title. Right? Now, being a doctor, philosophically, isn't a restricted profession, because it is a title based on your learning. But a doctor medically is a regulated profession, because you cannot call yourself a medical doctor and practice medicine without oversight. Okay. Now, because there are a large number of regulated professions, protected titles, people seem to think that journalism is one of them. Okay, so here we go. There's 4 ways of regulating the profession. I've given you the 2 directives under the EC and EU law. Now, the first leg, the first of the 4 ways to regulate a profession, are the professions regulated by law or public authority. Okay, and that's where there is a regulatory requirement to register with a competent authority prior to practicing that profession. Okay, and that is to make sure that you are suitably qualified to practice. Who are they? Well, first of all, you have education. So in England, Level 2 childcare worker, Level 3 early years educator, Level 6 specialist early years graduate, a principal of further education institution, a school teacher in a publicly regulated school. There's also one for Northern Ireland to be a school teacher in a publicly related school, and in Scotland to be a school teacher in a publicly related school, and Wales to be a school teacher in a publicly regulated school. Also, to be a teacher at a further education institution for England, and again, teacher at a further education for Wales. Next, we have health. So, we have farrier in England, Wales and Scotland, a chiropractor, a dental hygienist, a dental therapist, a clinical dental technician, a dental nurse, a dental technician, an orthodontic therapist, an arts therapist, a biomedical scientist, a chiropodist or podiatrist, a clinical scientist, a dietitian, a hearing aid dispenser, an occupational therapist, an operating department practitioner, an orthoptist, a paramedic, a physiotherapist, a prosthesist or orthotist, a radiographer, a practitioner psychologist, in England, social worker, speech and language therapist, then we have nurse, subpart 1. Then you have optometrist or ophthalmic optician, a dispensing optician, an osteopath, a pharmacy technician for Great Britain, social workers for Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales are all separate one from one another, so they each have their own practicing body, social care manager for Wales, and a listed veterinary nurse. Next, we have law. So straight away we have an advocate for Scotland, then you have a barrister for England and Wales, barrister for Northern Ireland. Then we have licensed conveyancer, a licensed CLC practitioner, a notary public for England and Wales, a patent attorney, a solicitor for England and Wales, a solicitor for Northern Ireland, and a solicitor for Scotland, a conveyancing practitioner for Scotland, an executory practitioner for Scotland, a costs lawyer, a chartered legal executive, a registered trademark attorney, and registered trademark agent. After law, we have finance, which is an insolvency practitioner. Then there is maritime, okay? Maritime, fishing, on the sea, naval, that kind of thing. Okay, and this covers deck officer class 1 for fishing vessels, class 2 and class 3. So deck officer class 1, class 2 and class 3 for fishing vessels. Then there is engineer class 1, engineer class 2. Both again for fishing vessels. Engineer class 1 fishing vessel, engineer class 2 fishing vessels. And then you have diver. Okay. Construction and engineering. Registered gas engineer. Okay, so with me so far? Other. Inspector of weights and measures. Inspector of weights and measures for Northern Ireland. Now these are the people that had all the hoo-ha about straight bananas, and the people that wanted to sell in pounds and ounces rather than in kilos. And we had the metric martyrs. Those were the people in charge of that. Then we have road and street works operatives and roads and street works supervisors. And then in Scotland and Northern Ireland we have the title of certified technically competent person. After that we have analytical chemist. Next we have security. So close protection operative. So if you refer to yourself as a close protection operative, that is a protected status. That means that you have to have done something and registered and be actually allowed to use it. Same with door supervisor, strangely enough. Door supervisor, you know, guys in the monkey suits that stand outside of nightclubs. Regulated profession. Public space surveillance operative. Security guard. Vehicle immobiliser. Now this has got the bracket of England, Wales and Northern Ireland, so it's all under one heading rather than separate. And then cash and valuables in transit operative for England and Wales, and cash and valuables in transit operative for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Now I can tell you that all of the security, because I have been a door supervisor, I have been a security guard, is under the SIA regulation system. Next and finally, for this section, bear in mind this is only one of 4, we have transport. And the last one is airport fire officer, airport firefighter, licensed boatmaster, approved driving instructor for Great Britain, approved driving instructor for Northern Ireland, a certified instructor for motorcycles, Great Britain, and approved motorcycle instructor for Northern Ireland. Now all of those that I have read out are those professions regulated by law or public authority. Now what that means is, if you call yourself anything on that list, then you can be charged and potentially found guilty of an offence because you are stating that you are something you are not. It is a protected profession by law. Now the next part is professions regulated by professional bodies incorporated by Royal Charter. Okay, now these are professional titles or designatory letters after your name that are protected by a competent authority holding a royal charter. They do not have a reserve of activities, but they should be verified with an appropriate competent authority. Basically, it considers your qualifications and relevant practical experience under the provisions of the directive, and basically the idea is you have to be part of this royal charter or professional body in order to carry out your work. These aren't professional titles in the same way as the ones protected by law, but you have to have some kind of oversight, but otherwise they will not allow you, and you should not use the titles. Now, you should not use the title or use the designatory letters. Again, this is protection, so that, I say protection. Some people view it as protection, others see it as bar to entry. Okay? If you put a bar to entry on a system, then it means that there are regulatory or legal stages that you have to go through in order to undertake the profession, which historically was to stop just anybody doing it and to preserve the amount of money that people could charge for the services. So again, there are two sides as to why this is. Anyway, protected titles under professional bodies incorporated by Royal Charter. This is part 2 out of 4. Okay. Construction and engineering. Chartered architectural technologist. Chartered builder. Associate of the Chartered Institute of Building. Chartered Building Services Engineer. Chartered Chemical Engineer. Chartered Civil Engineer. Chartered Energy Engineer. Chartered Petroleum Engineer. Chartered Engineer. Incorporated Engineer. Engineering Technician. Information and Communications Technology, ICT, computers to you and I, technician. Chartered Forester. Chartered Arboriculturalist. Chartered Gas Engineer. Chartered IT Professional. Registered IT Technician. Chartered Marine Engineer. Chartered Structural Engineer. Member of the Institution of Engineering and Technology. Member of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. Member Royal Aeronautical Society. Fellow Royal Aeronautical Society. Naval Architect. Okay, you may see a pattern here. Most of these say chartered in front of their name. After this, we then have environmental and public health. So, chartered environmental health practitioner, environmental health officer, chartered environmental health officer. Then we have another environmental health officer, for reasons I don't know, but it's down here twice. There's no bracket to distinguish it between Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland or England, but there we go. And then you have chartered health and safety practitioner. After health and public health and environmental stuff, we then have finance and insurance. And again, this is probably where most of you will have heard of the chartered thing, like chartered accountant, chartered arbitrator, associate of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, chartered certified accountant, chartered insurer, chartered insurance practitioner, chartered insurance broker, chartered financial planner, chartered loss adjuster, chartered management accountant, chartered public finance accountant, chartered tax advisor, chartered banker, associate of the IFS School of Finance, brackets AIFS. There's only one for law, and that is actuary. And then we have other, chartered biologist, chartered chemist, chartered colourist, licentiate of the Society of Dyers and Colourists, chartered geologist, chartered geographer, housing practitioner, chartered manager, chartered marketer, associate member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, chartered mathematician, chartered mathematics teacher, chartered measurement and control technologist, chartered meteorologist, chartered physicist, licentiate of the Royal Academy of Dance, registered teacher of the Royal Academy of Dance, chartered scientist, chartered secretary, chartered shipbroker, chartered statistician, chartered textile technologist, licentiate of the Textile Institute, chartered town planner, chartered waste manager, chartered member of the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, chartered water and environment manager, member of the Institute of Materials, Minerals and Mining, brackets MIMMM. That's fairly recognisable, isn't it? Okay, landscape architect and chartered building surveyor. Talking of surveying, we then have surveying as its own section. Chartered surveyor, chartered arts and antiques surveyor, chartered building control surveyor, chartered civil engineering surveyor, chartered commercial property surveyor, chartered construction surveyor, chartered engineering surveyor and chartered environmental surveyor, chartered facilities management surveyor, chartered forestry surveyor, chartered hydrographic surveyor and chartered land surveyor, chartered machinery valuation surveyor, chartered management consultancy surveyor, chartered minerals surveyor, chartered planning and development surveyor, chartered project management surveyor, chartered quantity surveyor, chartered valuation surveyor, and then finally, not only the last one in the surveyors category, but in this second leg of regulated titles, associate of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. So we are now halfway through regulations pertaining to professional qualifications for UK and EU citizens. The third is what is known as the professions under Regulation 35, and these are professions where pursuit of a profession can be limited to holding sufficient proof of knowledge and aptitude. You will be really pleased to know that this is really short. There is one. It comes under health and is a farrier for England, Wales and Scotland. So last are the sectoral professions, and these are 7 professions where the minimum training requirements have been harmonised across the member states of the EU. So if you have completed basic training in the EU, you are able to obtain automatic recognition of your qualifications. And only qualifications obtained in a member state and listed in Directive 2005/36/EC are eligible for automatic recognition. If you wish to practice in the UK, however, you also need to have you also need to apply for recognition of your qualification from the appropriate competent authority. Now, the authorities have already been given because they're in the previous 3 sections. Now these professions fall under health and construction and engineering. So you have health, dental practitioner, doctor with basic training, doctor, specialist doctor, or doctor general practitioner, nurse and midwife, pharmacist in England, Wales and Scotland, and pharmacist for Northern Ireland, and veterinary surgeon. The last of these job titles is in construction and engineering, and it's an architect. So, nowhere, absolutely nowhere, is journalist a restricted or regulated title. So, to all of those who state that you have to have a degree, that you have to belong to a regulatory body and all the rest of it, I've got one word: bollocks. Because I've just gone through every single profession where you have to have a regulatory oversight for your qualification in order to do the job. But I'm going to go one stage further, and this is the second website that I will be using. And this second website is about the UK, because again I'm UK based, press card. Oh, you can't be a journalist without a press card. Okay, so the UK Press Card Authority Limited (brackets UK-PCA) manages a voluntary scheme. Oh, that's a big word. Voluntary. I think I've already dismissed your argument. But I'm going to go further. A voluntary scheme for issuing press or media credentials, otherwise known as the UK Press Card, to professional news gatherers working in the UK. Oh, it's a voluntary scheme. Who would have thunk it? Now, this scheme is managed through 19 gatekeepers. The 19 gatekeepers will be at the very end of this, because that's how they're listed on this website. Okay, now these gatekeepers are national organisations which represent or employ journalists and other media personnel, whether employed or freelance, whose work involves gathering material for editorial publication in all media, whether it's print, broadcast or electronic. Each gatekeeper issues the UK Press Card to its members or to those whom it or its members employ. The gatekeeper is responsible to the UK PCA board for ensuring that the conditions of the scheme are adhered to. So basically what I've got here is I've got a voluntary scheme, which means that you do not have to join, and it has some oversight to those who hold the card. Okay, so if you want the card, you abide by certain rules. But the important thing to note, and the whole crux of this video, is you do not need a press card to be a journalist, a reporter, or someone who reports on the news. You do not need qualifications or a professional oversight body in order to use the title of reporter, journalist or freelance in any way, shape or form. Okay. Now, in order to be eligible, I mean, there's some here about how the card and all the thing is produced, but cards have both security and verification features, and every card has to be renewed at least every 2 years. Okay, that's about standard. I mean, the door supervisor and all the security ones that are listed before, they have to be renewed every 3. Okay, so eligibility. This is the important thing here. The definition of eligibility is that a news gatherer must be wholly or significantly concerned professionally as a media worker who needs to identify himself or herself in public. That's it. And again, the website says, in simple terms, he or she must earn most of his or her income on the front line of the news business. The principal occupations covered include reporters and writers, photographers, TV camera operators and crews, and other broadcasting workers such as producers, research, dispatch riders and drivers. That covers a very wide range of jobs, and you will notice that not one of them, not one, falls under regulation for protected titles of work. Furthermore, the scheme was launched in 1992 by all the major industry bodies with the help of the Metropolitan Police. So prior to 1992, press cards weren't the same thing as they are today. Okay, the reasons were basically to end the proliferation of press cards. Basically, make it a universally recognised card bearing the word press. This card is formally recognised by all police forces in the UK, by the Ministry of Justice, and de facto by other public bodies. That's it. If someone else comes into the scheme and they want to be a new gatekeeper, then there are certain things that have to be put in place. Mainly, it's to make sure that they apply by certain rules under data protection and everything else. But the two important things for new gatekeepers, and these are strict criteria, 2 bullet points: the news gatherers they represent cannot acquire the UK press card in any other way. Secondly, that they have not been set up primarily to issue accreditation. This is why I have gone further in pursuance of my argument. If you say that you are a reporter and you can show that you report, then you are. That's it. If anyone says that you have to have some form of accreditation, then the very nature of the UK Press Card Authority gatekeeping system actively denies that bar to entry. There is no bar to entry other than you do what you say you are doing. So if you say, I'm a journalist, I report on something, then you have to prove it. Usually with a body of work. Articles, videos, any kind of media representation, or you work for one of the 19 gatekeepers in an ancillary position where having a press card is advantageous for you to be able to say, I'm a driver for this, I need to be able to drop this person so that they can give so and so an interview, or I'm a cameraman with this person and I have a press card. That's it. It's that simple. It's that easy. So, how to obtain a press card? If you think you need a press card in the course of your work and comply with the criteria laid out in the rules, you will have to apply through one of the gatekeepers listed below. See which gatekeeper seems the most appropriate and contact them. If you need to renew it, you apply through the gatekeeper who issued you your press card. If you cannot remember from whom you got your card, there are prefix initials on the card number. So looking at a press card, you should be able to figure out who issued the card. If they've been lost or stolen, then you have to apply for it and tell them and email the card manufacturers, who will then get in contact with the gatekeeper, who you then have to get in contact with. And from 2009, new cards have an enhanced UK Press Card Authority hologram. However, because card may last up to 2 years, not every card will carry the hologram until 2011. Obviously, being 7 years later, every Press Card Authority card should now have a hologram on it. But again, if you want to apply and you think it applies to you, then you find the gatekeeper that you think applies to you, and you apply. You do not have to have a degree. You do not have to belong to any particular association or professional body. So who are these gatekeepers? The British Association of Journalists, or BAJ, who covers journalists in all media. The BBC. They cover TV, radio, staff and contract staff, national, regional and local. Then you have the Broadcasting, Entertainment, Cinematographic and Theatre Union, BECTU, BECTU, who cover production staff and freelances in TV and radio. BECTU also covers independent TV and video production. BFBS, the British Forces Broadcasting Service, which covers British Forces News and Forces TV. The BPPA, the British Press Photographers Association, which covers freelance photographers. Channel 4, who cover Channel 4 News. Then you have the Chartered Institute of Journalists. Now notice that the Chartered Institute of Journalists, the CIOJ, wasn't in that really long list of charters that I read out. Interesting. Because in order to be chartered, technically you've got to have a Royal Charter, which means that you should be covered under the Royal Charter section of that 4 legs of regulatory bodies. And this is where I think people slip up. They see all these other charters that are regulated, and they see Chartered Institute of Journalists and think, oh, you've got to be one of them, you've got to be chartered. No, you don't. It is only a gatekeeper. It is only one of 19 ways to get your press pass. And again, it covers journalists in all media. The Council of Photographic News Agencies, CPNA, which covers national and international picture agencies. The International Visual Communication Association Limited, EVCOM, users and suppliers of business communication and events. Then we have the FPA, the Foreign Press Association, which covers overseas media working in the UK. So if you're not from the UK, you have an FPA, Press Pass. Interesting that certain people who were denied entry, they could have applied for that, covered by press. If they're covered by press, then why would they be deported for wanting to interview someone like Tony Robinson? Because that would be interference in media. Next gatekeeper, ITN Limited, covers ITN News. ITV Network Limited, covers ITV stations. Local TV Network, covers local TV network, and I don't know this group, but Made TV, M-A-D-E TV, Made TV, covered by the local TV network. Fair enough. NAPA, that's all it says, is NAPA, and NAPA, Media Services You Can Trust. Now, they are care of Cavendish Press. Now, I know Cavendish because they do a lot, they used to do at least, I don't know if they still do, magazines and things like that. So it says it covers regional and local news agencies in the UK. Then you have News Media Association, or NMA. And it says here that News Media Association was formed due to a merger of the Newspaper Society and Newspaper Publishers Association, and it covers newspapers in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. The NMA issues cards to freelance reporters and photographers whose work is known to editors. So if you've managed to get yourself known by an editor in the national newspapers, you can get an NMA press card. Then we have the National Union of Journalists, NUJ, covers journalists in all media. The NUJ also covers freelance photographers in the Association of Photographers. Next is the Professional Publishers Association, the PPA, and they cover consumer, business to business and customer magazines published in the UK. Also issues cards for the British Society of Magazine Editors. Then we have Reuters, and it says here that Reuters issues to its staff only. Sky News. Sky News only covers Sky News Television. That's it. There's only one more thing that I have to do to lay this to rest, and that is, under the UK Press Card Authority, their press card scheme rules is the criteria to be an eligible news gatherer. Okay, so again, they don't refer to journalist, they don't refer to reporter, they refer to an eligible news gatherer. Okay, now this is under section 1.8 of their rules as issued September 2015. They are working professionally as a media worker in the UK. Their employment, or self-employment, is wholly or significantly concerned with the gathering, transport or processing of information or images for publication in broadcast, electronic or written media, including TV, radio, internet-based services, newspaper and periodicals. And they need, in the course of those duties, to identify themselves in public or otherwise to official services. So there you have it. That is how difficult it is to be a reporter and to get a UK press card. With that, anyone who takes offence at the way that this country is going, who wishes to stand up and be counted, like me, I say to you, register in whatever way you can as a self-employed news gatherer. Start a blog. Start a Patreon. I would say start a YouTube channel, but start a video channel somewhere. Get together a body of work which produces evidence that you gather, transport, process information and images for publication in broadcast, electronic or written media. The key is internet-based services. You do not need accreditation. You do not need a degree. You just need to prove that you go out there, you put in the work, that you can speak, that you can write. That's it. We are going down a very dark path. If we do not stand up and be counted, then we are lost. This is how we stand up and be counted. This is how we make sure they cannot silence us because we turn round and say, we're a reporter. We have a press card. We have every right to be here, every right to ask questions, and every right to report on your misdemeanours, your misbehaviour, and I am allowed, as a reporter, to report my misgivings. So, this has been a long video. If you have made it to the end, then I congratulate you, because this is a dry topic. But I hope that you will have borne with me throughout, that you will realise that this information is important information. We need to know where the lines are, so that we can then draw the battle lines. We can draw on government intervention and malfeasance where people are being silenced because of their views, even when they are credentialed. And I've just shown you how to get those credentials. So, with that being said, I am, as always, Voice of the Forge. This has been a slightly different and more instructional shooting straight than usual. And if you wish to contact me, then you can reach me on my Twitter page, on my Twitch page, on YouTube, on Minds, on VidMe. I'm there. The brand is Voice of the Forge. You can find me. Thank you for listening, and good night.